Greetings, First Presbyterian Church family. I hope this finds you well. This is actually being produced for Thursday, September 22nd, the first day of fall, of autumn. It's the equinox. Of course, that time when we have an equal amount of sun and light relative to where you are in the world. And we will then, for us here in the Northern Hemisphere, make our moves bit by bit towards winter, towards the winter solstice, a changing of the seasons officially, because September is basically late summer in terms of weather, though I traditionally have thought of really all of September as the fall. But anyway, I hope that this will be a good season for you. Have you figured out where I am yet in walking? I'm later thinking, why, Jones, are you at a place where there is no shade? But I thought I'd try the Mesquite Heritage Trail. I'm not sure about recordings and kids or anything like that, so I'm not going to go. I'm just going to keep filming forwards. But as I'm looking to my right, I see Beasley Elementary, and there's some kids are on the playground, the recreation time. And I can remember the days when they would let us go run wild on the playground. Well, that was a few years ago. And to my left, I see Kimbrough Middle School. And I believe they're the Cougars. Not sure what the mascot is for Beasley Elementary. During the season, I have been, by season, I mean this one of many series. I have been looking at the Psalms and Psalms in the 20s, and have used those in reflections in my morning devotions, and have reflected sharing reflections from the Kellers on the Psalms from the devotion. And I continually return to the theme of journey and where the path will lead, and not always sure where it will lead. As I'm looking ahead, I can see we got a little curve up here after across the creek, and go on down there. There's actually something a bit sentimental about this walkway. Those kids are okay. They just kind of, fussing amongst themselves. Teachers are watching them. It's just regular noises. No worries if you heard any kid yelling in the background. But anyway, back in November of 2017, Marilee and I had flown back to Texas. And it was during that time that I was received into Grace Presbytery, with my official transfer date being January 1st. But that's when I went before Grace Presbytery. It also happened to be an anniversary date for my becoming a candidate in New Hope Presbytery. And I shared that day that here I was on the plains of North Texas. And that was a number of years ago. It was in 1991. So I guess it was 26 years ago. Anyway, I don't want to do the math right now. But anyway, I was at the Outer Banks Presbyterian, I want to say was the name of it. I was on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, within view of the Atlantic Ocean, and just amazed that where the journey had taken me, seminary in Atlanta, Decatur, which is basically North Mesquite, South Garland, in relation to Atlanta being Dallas geographically, but to have gone from there and then to be in Virginia, in an area we call Southside Virginia, and then down to West Central Georgia, and preparing now for this journey. So anyway, it's November, and we're also doing a little house hunting. And I remember, with Marilee, walking along the path here and just reflecting where would we end up and what life would be like for the children. And of course, now it is almost 5 years later, and they are where they are. very excited about their life here in Texas. Really, it was the point of just reflecting, and this time I invite you to reflect on seasons in your life and where the journey is taken. And maybe it's been a place, because let's see. Yeah, like, okay, I look back there, okay, not getting the kids. But you see, I can see that path way going that way. It's like, oh yeah, I can. And it's kind of like when you look back, you see exactly where you've been. And sometimes in life, when you're looking ahead, there's pretty, something might change, but you got something pretty clear in front of you. And then sometimes it's kind of like this, where you just have a kind of vague idea of where it's going from here. And I think we even cross the street down there too. But anyway, this brings me back. I want to share the last of the psalm that I'm going to share in this series. I'm not sure what my next series is going to be. When I'm away in North Carolina, I'll have some time to reflect on that. But let me try to walk and talk and just share a few reflections. This is from Psalm 27. I'm not going to read the psalm, but it's one of my favorites. I mean, it's marked up so many times in my Bible. And it is one where it starts off, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. And all that means to be connected to the Lord, to have the Lord as the center, and to be reflect, like that's where I want to be, in the house of the Lord. And I love the last verse. I would have despaired unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And that's something that I keep in mind. I would have despaired unless I would have believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Something to which I have held. The Kellers reflect the beauty of God. Is there certain music that gives you deep joy? Is there a view or landscape that does the same? If someone says, what is the use of that? You answer that the music or landscape is not a means to some end, but profoundly satisfying in itself. David's supreme priority is to gaze on the beauty of the Lord. Gazing is not a one-time glimpse, but a steady, sustained force. It is not petitionary prayer, but praising, admiring, and enjoying God just for who God is. David finds God beautiful, not just useful for attaining goods. To sense God's beauty in the heart is to have such pleasure in God that you rest content. And here's the prayer. Lord, it is no exaggeration to say that there's only one thing I really need in life, and I ask for it now. It is not to merely believe in you, but in prayer and experience, to see and sense your beauty. Let me love you for yourself alone. Amen. And so I come here, and it's hot, y'all. So I'm going to come up here to where a little pathway joins, and then I'm going to turn around. I'm trying to remember again how far Mary and I walked that day as we reflected on life and what life in Texas would be like. I think we walked a little bit further than this. It has been a journey, and now, if you look, you can actually see. You're back to the place where you can see way, way down.